Hello, my name is Martin Tarazon, and in this video, I'm going to share with you some information about the course Individual Factors in the Learner's Development, in which we covered the following topics: cognitive influences on language learning, affective influences on language learning, and physical and psychological factors influencing language learning. In the first topic, cognitive influences on language learning, we learn about the cognitive factors concerning mental conditions such as process strategies which learners have access when learning a second language. Talking about cognitive factors, they refer to the mental conditions, strategies, or processes which a learner has access to while learning a foreign language. Cognitive factors are frequently related with intelligence. What does research says about this concept? When applying it to second language acquisition, some studies seem to show that intelligence may influence the acquisition of some skills associated with SLA, particularly those used in the formal study of a second language, such as reading, writing, language analysis, and vocabulary study. We cannot leave behind language aptitude. That refers to the natural ability which you have to learn languages, and people possess it to varying degrees. Another factor is cognitive style, which refers to the manner in which a learner perceives, monitors, conceptualizes, and recalls linguistic information. One last but not least factor is learning strategies, which are the particular approaches or techniques that learners employ to try to learn a second language. This is another factor that, among intelligence, aptitude, and cognitive style, give shape to individual factors in the learner's development. In sum, acquisition and learning of a second language is a process of numerous vertices. Within them, structured learning is a significant guide that routes students in the correct direction of achieving their goals in her target language. Affective influences on language learning is another interesting topic when describing the acquisition process of a second language. Affective influences refer to the effects of the emotions and feelings on the learner in the task of second language learning. Views on motivation of various researchers cited in IEXPRO is anthology are positive self-concept, high self-esteem, positive attitude, clear understanding of the goals for language learning, continuous active participation in the language learning process, the relevance of conducive environment that could contribute to the success of language learning. Another one is the most successful language learners will be those who have both talent and a high level of motivation for learning. In general, successful language learners appear to have higher self esteem than those who are unsuccessful. There are some perspectives related to attitudes and motivation. The motivation for learning theory. This theory is traditionally associated with the investigation of learning and, strictly speaking, with the psychology of learning. Attribution theory. This theory studies the different ways people attribute causes to events. And types of motivation in language learning could be extrinsic, intrinsic motivation, global, situational, and task motivation that help both a teacher and students to reflect on attitudes and motivation within a classroom context. One interesting statement in the expert anthology is success in the classroom context does not necessarily mean simply getting the answers right, but could include things like students producing and understanding language or being aware of a certain amount of progress in their learning. Researchers suggest that the role of attitudes in motivation and the different variables which affect motivation could be explored At this point, a question that I read in the anthology comes to my mind. How can the contributions of motivation research be integrated into areas of second language teaching, such as course design, evaluation, instructional materials, and the learner's role? What can we do to increase motivation within a classroom context? According to the reading, motivation plays a key role in a second language learning. If there is a lack of inclination towards language learning, learning will not take place. I do agree with it. Physical and psychological factors influencing language learning is the last topic that we study in this course. And if I think about physical factors, it comes to my mind. Age is one of the most important because after reading chapter 3 from the anthology for this subject, I have to agree with one of the sentences quoted in the above mentioned anthology. It is a variable which can be easily measured without the need of for special instruments or tests. But at the same time, comes to my mind this question: is it age important when learning a second language? Besides age, that of course it has to do with physical conditions that it might affect our learning process. Around this factor, another question element emerge. Why is a person learning English? I cannot deny that writing about this topic, in my opinion, it is kind of difficult due to the different learning theories regarding age. But in my experience as a teacher, I have worked with children, teenagers, and adults beyond beyond age. Learning motives are more important. These two concepts these two concepts are extremely relevant when learning a second language because both provide opportunities for learners to interact authentically with the target language. Obviously, learners have various sources, including the teacher, others learners, and the environments around the learners, without neglecting the amount of information that a student possesses to interact with the language. There is the solid learning data, which the student has to interact with others using the target language. Another statement that is important to remark it is the personality factor that involves a learner and set him or her off in the learning process. The response of the learner will have pedagogical implications resulting in an adequate interaction with the target language. That as a teacher, in my opinion, we need to be aware of. When personality is part of a physiological factor, um, interacts in the learning process brings a result that can either benefit or affect a student. I think that as part of a pedagogical proposal, a learner needs to the opportunity to take into account those strategies that she possesses adapted to his her own personality. In my opinion, the teaching conditions that interact within a learning process need to include methodology, syllabus, and resources appropriately adapted for the learner, who plays a central role in language teaching learning. It is of a great importance within our teaching learning process to focus on effective attitudinal, physical, psychological, and motivational factors towards learning, including opportunities for language use and practice in a classroom context. To conclude, I just want to add that those factors around a learning process need to be taken into account for both teacher and student. These factors provide interesting data when interacting with a learner. Regarding physical and psychological factors, I believe that we cannot leave them out when teaching. Particularly, I think that we can frequently deal with students' answering when applied to language learning or scholastic context. Finally, I want to thank our teacher for bringing out this interesting course that I found useful for my teaching practice. Hope you have found this information about individual factors in the learner's development interesting. Thanks for watching.